So sit back, relax, or snuggle underneath some blankets, and let's begin. The Tale of the Farmer in the Valley. There once was an old man by the name of Jeb or Jebediah, who lived in a valley surrounded by thick forests. He lived in a nice, large, fielded area and loved his wife Cybele, owned a nice house with a barn next door where he kept 3 cows, Shardra, Mesh, and Abna. They all lived happily. Jeb enjoyed tending to his farm and thought that having more than 2 of anything was a waste. He kept to himself, a humble man pursuing happiness more than wealth. Life as a farmer was hard but rewarding work, and Jeb easily went through the daily motions of waking up early and going to bed early. He enjoyed the small things in life, and even though he had no neighbors, he found himself never feeling lonely. One evening, when Jeb was in his barn putting some hay away, he heard some rustling. Shrugging it off, he continued to work when he heard tapping like that of a woodpecker on some wood. He thought maybe a bird got into the rafters, so he looked around and didn't see anything. Finishing up, he left the barn, thinking he spent too much time underneath the sun that day, and decided to go to bed. During the night, he tossed and turned as he dreamed a strange dream. He dreamt that his bed turned into mud, and he was sinking deep into it. As he yelled, he noticed his wife, Cybele, was already too deep in the mud to save, and he grasped to his bedpost as to not get pulled into the huge dark mud vortex beneath him. He woke up in a sweat, and his wife was downstairs making breakfast. After he rushed through eating breakfast, he went back outside again. On the final night of the month, Jeb was out in his barn, and a familiar rustling noise started up again. This time, he was ready and quickly ran up and shone his lantern in the direction of the noise. What he saw made his skin freeze. There, standing before him, were 5 evil-looking creatures. They all had deep black holes where their eyes were supposed to be, and dark green skin covered with dirt. And the teeth made Jeb's skin crawl. Their teeth were thin as paper, but looked sharp like that of a razor. He tried to count the teeth himself, but lost count after seeing at least 50. They must have had more teeth than a shark, he thought to himself. They stood there frozen and immobile. And then Jeb's light started to flicker, and in 1 second, it completely turned off. The following seconds felt like ages, and Jeb thought that maybe it was all a dream, since nothing was happening. Then the laughs started. Dark, evil, sinister laughs. And Jeb knew they were coming towards him. He scrambled up on a haystack and reached for his scythe, but it was gone. He felt around and fumbled for his axe, which had been lying on the ground from yesterday's work. The barn door then closed behind him. Growing frantic, he grabbed some flint from the corner and started a fire in the corner of his barn. He could now see these creatures coming towards him. "Who are you?" he yelled. What are we?" they said, all repeating themselves one after the other while snickering. He could hear one reply back, "We're name are Orob. Yes. Orobi, yes." And with that, they lunged at him from all angles. Jeb swung his axe all over, nipping some of them on the hand, and as if by magic, poof, they disappeared, but not after yelling, "You are in trouble, mister." The fire in the barn was just getting out of hand, and Jeb put it out with a cold pail of water, but made sure to light a new lantern before doing so, and went to see if his cows were okay, since he didn't hear from them since the fight had started. They were completely still. He assumed they were sleeping, but as he approached, he noticed that Abna was moving. Oh, maybe she is still up, he thought, and went to go comfort her. He slowly made his way into the pen and was walking off to her side when Abna's neck turned. Jeb stood there in shock, for instead of the face of a cow was a hideous, grotesque human face. Jeb yelled in horror and then started to notice that he recognized this face. It was the face of his wife, Sybil. The face mockingly looked at him and gave out a sly, "Hello, old man, what are you, she?" as if spoken by a snake. The cow started to move strangely, as if mounds of its body were alive and moving in all directions. Jeb yelled, "What did you do to her?" and grabbed his axe in a fit of terror. He swung at it at least a couple dozen times, completely destroying the cow. When he opened his eyes, he looked around him in horror, for the other cows had woken up, but where Abna stood were pieces of bones and teeth that Jeb, in all his years of hunting, had never seen in his life. Some of them were even strangely colored. "What is this?" yelled Jeb. This wasn't a cow. Poking around the remains, something shiny caught his eye from the light of his lantern. A gold locket necklace. Jeb was putting it on when a large shriek from the house interrupted him. Jeb quickly ran out to see what was wrong. As he entered the house, the candles all pulsated, and in the kitchen stood his wife, Sybil. "Oh, hello there, dear," she cackled, and turned around Jeb saw before him a 6-foot-tall old hag with a potato sack-looking rag of tatters that looked decayed and seemed hundreds of years old. She cackled. "You came home, dearie." "You old witch, where is my wife?" he yelled. And the witch said, "Oh, you fool, I am Cybele. I have been your wife for months. I grew lonely in these woods, alone, and so you were alone as well. I worked some of my charms and spells, and here I am. If it wasn't for my pesky minions always trying to steal milk at night, you would have been none the wiser. Don't worry, my next spell will be permanent, and we shall live here in the valley forever." She malevolently laughed. "But what about Abna?" yelled Neb. "Who?" Cybele moaned. "Your cow. What of her?" "Oh, you mean my familiar. Oh, yes, she was never a cow. I kept her close to fuel my magic. Notice how good the crops were this year. It fed on any predators from both this plane and those of other dimensions. Ain't that nice now? Now come here and it will all be over." "No," said Jeb. "I know I had a wife." "You never did," yelled Cybele. And at that moment, the necklace around Jeb's neck started glowing. "No! Where did you get that, you scum? How could you? I have been searching for that for ages," the witch yelled. Jeb tugged, and the locket opened. Out shone a piercing white-blue light that pierced from the necklace into the air in a straight line like an arrow, flying directly into Cybele's forehead, right between the eyes. "No! I hate you, you foolish farmer. I will be back. These are my lands." And she slowly started to melt and shrink. After a few seconds, she was gone. Jeb knelt forward and saw the dark, black-crimson puddle that was foul-smelling and like acid. It was melting through the floor at a rapid pace. Down, down it went, through the floor of the house and into the ground below, burrowing a hole of foul, rotten stench as it sunk deeper and lower into the earth. Jeb went to bed that night, holding his necklace close to his heart. And while his memory was fragmented, he started to remember certain things about his past. Oh, I had a wife, for sure. I remember someone always dressing in white and relaxing in our trees and near our field. And I used to make crowns for her hair, he thought. I think her name was... Why, yes, her name was Sarah. And he drifted off into a deep sleep. The end. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I shall see you all